Welcome back to the Quackery, where a regular Taylor resident wades through city plans and meetings, then breaks them down so you don't have to dig through it all yourself.
All right, neighbors, let's walk through the City Council agenda for September 25th, 2025. The meeting starts with a couple of proclamations. First up is National Night Out, that community event where neighborhoods come together with local police and fire to build relationships and focus on safety. After that, Council will recognize Hunger Action Month, shining a light on food insecurity and the work the Central Texas Food Bank does in our region. From there, we move into citizen communication. This is always your chance to step up and share what's on your mind. Whether it's parks, roads, housing, or anything else, this is your moment to have your voice heard by Council.
After that, we get into the consent agenda, a group of items that are usually routine and approved with a single vote unless a council member pulls one out for more discussion. One of those items is the approval of minutes from the September 10th meeting, the one where council adopted the tax rate and finalized the city's budget for next year. Next, we'll hear about Ordinance 2025-31, the budget amendment for the current fiscal year. Think of this as the city's year-end balancing act. It recognizes about $335,000 from FEMA for Winter Storm Mara, moves the Samsung Quality of Life grant into a restricted fund so it's used exactly as intended, and closes out the sanitation fund by transferring a little over $2 million into the general fund. Put together, those changes swing the general fund from what looked like a $21,000 deficit into about a $2.39 surplus to close out the year. Another item is the final plat for Samsung Taylor. A plat is basically the official map that locks in property lines and easements. In this case, it covers about 1,216 acres stitched together from several old land surveys. Approving the plat doesn't greenlight new buildings, that's already been approved, but it does put the final legal framework in place so the site work and infrastructure can move ahead. Then there's the renewal of the UniFirst contract. This one's not glamorous, but it's important. UniFirst provides uniforms and mats for city employees, especially those in public works and utilities, and handles all the cleaning and replacement. They also rotate out mats in city facilities to keep public areas safe and clean. Renewing this agreement through the Buy-Aboard purchasing program extends the service for another 3 years, with funding already built into the general and utility fund budgets. We'll also get a look at the August monthly financial report. By the end of August, the general fund had taken in about $23.03, roughly 73% of the year's budgeted revenues, while spending was just over $24 million, or about 75%. That left a temporary shortfall of around $921,000. But remember, property taxes hit in September, so that gap usually balances out. Some revenue streams are outperforming expectations. Court fines are nearly 150% of budget, intergovernmental money is at 187%, and development assessments are a whopping 658% of what was expected. Across all city funds, revenue stood at $49.08, while expenses were at $52.04. Another pair of items deal with the national opioid settlements. Resolution R25-19 ties Taylor into a settlement with companies like Alvogen, Amneal, Mylan, and a few others. Resolution R25-20 covers Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family. By opting in, Taylor makes sure it stays eligible for its share of settlement funds and resources, like naloxone supplies. These dollars are restricted to opioid abatement and recovery programs, so they don't flow into the general budget, but they can help support treatment, prevention, and education in Taylor and Williamson County. Also on the consent agenda is the adoption of a ceremonial documents policy. This sets the ground rules for how proclamations and ceremonial recognitions are handled. Although requests have to be in writing, staff can help with formatting, and the mayor has the authority to edit or even decline requests if they conflict with city policies or community values. Now, that phrase isn't defined anywhere, so in practice, it means the mayor decides case by case. That's the part of the policy that carries the most discretion. Council will also look at the RCR Taylor Logistics Park, which sits down on FM 3349 next to the Samsung property. This is a big, multi-phase industrial subdivision and rail park. What's on the table now isn't new construction, but the city formally accepting some of the infrastructure that's already been built. Here's the deal. Back in January, Council gave partial acceptance for the water and wastewater lines. Now the developer is asking for what's called conditional acceptance of the rest,
things like paving and drainage.
Conditional means the city is essentially saying, okay, you've gotten most of it done, but you still have to finish a few punch list items and paperwork before it's truly final. The conditions are pretty specific. All the outstanding fixes have to be completed. All agreements with the city need to be finalized, and the official warranty period on this infrastructure won't even start until everything is fully accepted and a maintenance bond is in place. That warranty is important because it makes sure the developer, not the city, is responsible if something fails early on. Staff have already walked the site, noted what still needs attention, and confirmed that most of the improvements are in place. Public Works and the city engineer are recommending council go ahead with this conditional acceptance, since the developer has provided the required documentation and just needs to wrap up the last pieces. So in short, this agenda item is a step toward finalizing the subdivision improvements at the RCR Taylor Logistics Park, but with clear strings attached to make sure the developer finishes the job and covers the warranty. That brings us into the public hearing and ordinances, starting with the strength of force ordinance. This is required under state law for cities with civil service. Council has to set the exact number of positions in the police and fire departments. By rank, that means 2 commanders, 5 sergeants, 4 corporals, and 22 officers or recruits. For fire, 1 assistant chief, 7 lieutenants, 6 driver operators, and 12 firefighters. The only change this year is adding 1 police officer, which was included in the new budget. On the regular agenda, Council will consider confirming Joseph Branson as interim police chief. Chief Henry Fluck retired on September 22nd, and under Texas Local Government Code 143, Council has to confirm whoever the city manager designates as head of the department. Branson is stepping in temporarily until a permanent decision is made. This confirmation gives him the legal authority to lead the department in the meantime and keeps things running smoothly. We'll also hear a presentation on a possible employee home buyer incentive program. The idea here is to help city staff afford to buy homes in Taylor, which is harder to do as prices rise. The program could include down payment assistance, help with closing costs, or forgivable loans tied to years of service. The details aren't set yet. This presentation is about exploring options. If it moves forward, the funding would likely come from the general fund or partnerships with banks and builders.
The goal is to recruit and retain employees by making it easier for them to live in the community they serve. Finally, Council will consider authorizing an agreement with Tischler Buys, Inc. to create a financial impact model.
Tischler Buys is a national consulting firm that helps cities measure the real costs and benefits of growth. For about $127,800, paid out of the general fund, they would build a custom model for Taylor, train staff to use it, and deliver reports so Council can test what-if scenarios before making big decisions on annexations, rezonings, or development deals. The idea is to avoid approving projects that look good on the surface but actually cost more than they bring in. Of course, that $127,000 is a trade-off. It's money that could otherwise fund salaries, maintenance, or other services, but Council will have to decide if investing in this planning tool is worth the cost. And that's the agenda. From proclamations and financial housekeeping to big picture questions about housing, policing, and growth, this meeting covers a lot of ground. And as always, the most important part is citizen communication. That's your chance to weigh in and shape the conversation. Thanks for watching the Quackery. Remember, this is completely unofficial. I'm just a neighbor learning out loud and sharing what I discover along the way. So jump on in. The more ducks in the pond, the more voices in the conversation, and together, the more we can shape Taylor's future.